views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Russia's been trying to meddle in the U.S. elections and U.S. politics for years. But how much influence did the Russians have before the Obama administration approved the controversial deal in 2010, giving Moscow control of a large amount of American uranium? The FBI had gathered substantial evidence that Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery, kickback, extortion, and money laundering designed to grow Vladimir Putin's atomic energy business inside the United States, according to The Hill. Coming up, we'll dive into the controversy over Russia, Hillary and Trump's campaign, and the story of collusion with Russia. That's up next on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective, which shines a light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
And welcome to Perspectives. I'm Daren Jaime, and we're glad to have you here with us. You can join us on Perspectives every week here on Bronx's Channel 67. And then also check us out on our social networking sites, Facebook, Twitter, and you can check me out on my professional page on Facebook, Daren C. Jaime. There you can find out more information about the show and also just get a power perspective for the course of the week. Our guests in the studio, no strangers to us. There are two very astute political analysts who have definitely worked their way. Joyce Johnson, who is a political contributor for us here at BronxNet. She also has done several things in the world of politics. She's run for office several times, including for New York City mayor. Also joining us right now, we've got Lee Bynes, who is our political contributor here at BronxNet, and also the owner of Retrovision Media, talking about issues under fire. Man, there's some issues that are under fire with him, and he'll talk about that in just a little while. But listen, both of you, good to have you here.
Good to be
Great
back.
to be here.
Listen, let's talk a little bit. Robert Mueller's got his investigation going on. The Trump administration is distancing themselves away, saying this has nothing to do with us and Russia. However, what can we make of Robert Mueller's investigation, given the fact that you have Frank Manafort and him and others who have been brought up on charges?
Slow burn is lightening up. and that is deja vu all over again, a la the Watergate investigation. When it started out back in the 70s,
72,
like, oh yeah, 72, 73. Well, oh, this is nothing, whatever. It took 3 years. It took 3 years. And the finding some tapes that finally had to be turned over to undo a presidency. So the Mueller investigation is from someone from my generation, and so many people are saying, let it take its course. I mean, with some of the documentation and the indictments that have come down, that's just been a couple of months. So we have a long way to go. And the more that comes out, I'm just having a good old time. It's like Halloween.
And Lee is over here chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm thinking back
Halloween candy.
in the days of Nixon. I mean, you had tapes that they were looking for, but I think yes, this is going to take some additional time. But I think we can look forward to something happening sooner than later, simply because today we've got emails, texts, text messaging, phones, and other means of surveillance to be able to determine whether or not these people are telling the truth. And when it comes to Paul Manafort, when it comes to Rick Gates and George Papadopoulos, these individuals were ferreted out very carefully, very systematically, and when they announced those indictments, they were pretty much sure that they got the people that they want, and they got the people that they're almost certain that they'll be able to flipping upwards in order to catch other people. And so I think that the Trump administration is in full-out defense mode. They're coming out with, they just released data that indicated that they're going to fight this tooth and nail. They're going to do everything that they can to besmirch Mueller, try to say that he's has conflicting interests and probably should move along. But I think the country has heard enough to be able to say that no. Let this guy do his job. Let him finish what he's doing, and let's see where the chips fall.
Well, the point of that is, because desperation brings desperate acts. So
desperate
while
people do desperate things, they say, right?
people do desperate things, and what worried me yesterday when I heard Kelly, and this is the dumbing down, calming down. He put this whole investigation in terms of this impact on the American people, that we really need to get on with the agenda that's in front of us. And I say this is a crossroads of whether our democracy is real, collusion with Russians, usurp, take over our democracy. I have great patience, having gone through Watergate, that if a presidency has done wrong, if he is there by illegitimate or means of collusion, then we, the American people, must know that first and foremost. So I'm worried that Kelly and that little slide thing, Americans are frustrated. I'm not frustrated, and I caution everyone else who's listening to this show and get on Twitter to say you are not frustrated. This is a process that must play out, and if we start to raise our heads like, yeah, I'm tired of this, sick and tired of it, no, we want to move on with other things, we can multitask.
Right. Well, with Manafort and Gates publicly surrendering to federal officials, the question now goes, where does it go up the food chain? And a lot of people are saying, okay, this is going to involve President Trump. But yet and still you've got the White House on one side saying, listen, this has not got to the president. It's not about the president yet. But also stepping out of the White House, you have some comments that are being made also about Hillary Clinton, DNC.
But you know what? But you know what? Firstly, there's two tracks here that we could be working on at the same time. Speaking of multitasking,
exactly.
But with regards to the Hillary Clinton issue, her emails, this uranium issue, and the like is merely just a distraction. The president is 45, excuse me, is famous for that. And I agree that let's see where this is going. But when it comes to as far as the collusion and stuff, I mean this stuff with Hillary Clinton is a pure distraction.
So no investigation for Clinton?
No.
Who's interested in drudging up?
Here's the thing about this.
Her past. We
Here's
want to
about
know
this.
what's happening in the future. Hillary Clinton is not the president. Hillary Clinton will never be the president.
Well, that's the point.
She has been politically defamed for good.
Now let me take.
But if there is merit, to your point about two tracks, I say if there's merit, we're talking about the president of the United States, a foreign country, interfering in our election that may have turned in his favor, and so that is significantly different than Hillary Clinton, a private citizen. If there is some merit, let someone do an investigation about that. But that does not take away from, collusion, a foreign country interfering and determining the outcome of a presidential election and maybe others, and the prospect that this will happen again.
Well, you know what?
Two different things.
When I was saying two tracks, I was thinking from the perspective of history. Again, the United States is rather disingenuous by pushing this argument. Oh my God, the Russians are interfering in our elections. They're crushing our democracy. How can we possibly know who's in the White House and if we had anything to do with putting them there? But if you look at history, and I have, the United States has been involved with other nations and changing the trajectory of their elections for years.
Decades.
We have no problems going on the air, politicians, presidents alike, and talking about we need to regime change. If you're going to, as an external power, you're going to send NGOs, government agencies into another country and shore up the opposition to the party that's in power at the time, and do that on a regular basis, that's not just regime change.
What goes around comes around.
Precisely.
I don't want it happening here.
Precisely.
He said, going on air, I'm trying to stay on the air. I got to take a quick break, so we'll be right back. We'll be right back with more right after this.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
And we are back here on Perspectives, continuing our conversation with Joyce Johnson and Lee Bynes. And I want to talk about this whole notion of impeachment, right? Because we've heard this before. Now, I remember being a journalist. I was actually sitting at the State of the Union address. President Bill Clinton gave his final State of the Union address as an impeached president, but yet and still was able to maintain office. We hear a lot about this word impeachment. We hear a lot about what's going on with this, with the investigation right now. How realistic are we talking about when you talk about charges, impeachment, and being able to deal? Because this is a long process, and there's if it does reach all the way up the food chain to the president, the question in the hearts and minds of many is it might be too little too late because 4 years might have already elapsed.
Well, it may be that in the process, and don't forget in the political environment where, so, you know, the folks most interested in DT's number 45's impeachment are we Democrats and independents and the 66% that don't, you know, approve of him. However, he has control of the Congress, and the president can be impeached only by, you know, for high crimes and misdemeanor or whatever. Mm-hmm. The standards are, you know, loose as whatever. It can be brought. And I don't think that the Republicans would ever vote to impeach him. I simply don't.
However, I'm of the opinion that that it could possibly happen prior to 2018 because a lot of people's eyes see Donald Trump is being tolerated by the big rich or the corporate Republican side of the party. He's being tolerated because they want him to do one fundamental thing. One thing. They couldn't give a damn about health care, but they need those tax cuts and they need tax reform. That's the only thing they want. When it became apparent that there was a possibility that he would start having issues on the tax cuts that he wanted to get forward, you started to see Wall Street, for the first time in months, take a dip. And so the moneyed people want to see that happen. If he fails to deliver on tax cuts, I think you will find folks walking away from him. I think you will find more voices coming out in opposition to him. And I think you will find that in 2018, he'll find the House could flip. All it takes is for the House to flip, for them to go on and decide that, yeah, let's move on with these impeachment charges. Other than that,
you raise a point because
certainly
their poster boy man is Mike Pence. They would want, he is more presidential than Donald Trump will ever be. I think he's probably more sane and rational, and he's more of an ideologue companion with the Republicans. So they're tolerating Donald Trump now. But they're also, his base has got to deteriorate a little bit, because here's the downside of that gerrymandering. They're all in gerrymandered safe seats. And what are they, you know, what's Trump holding over them and Bannon holding over them? We're going to run somebody who is more ideological than you and these very conservative seats, and you're going to have a hard time. So they're between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, well, all of the infighting could work to the Democratic base's advantage if the Democratic base had leadership. And right now, people were so happy to see Barack Obama come out a couple of weeks ago and work on behalf of several gubernatorial races in New Jersey and down in Virginia. But save for Barack Obama, I would say that there's a vacuum of leadership in the Democratic Party. I think the current crew right now is average age 70-something. They haven't built a bench. They haven't brought any new ideas. So again, unless that happens, and these things have to happen together, Donald Trump has to A, fail on taxes, and the Democrats have to B, have new ideas, fresh faces to incite people to move forward.
What you pointed out, we know the structure here in New York. We're happy that 10%, maybe 7% people turn out. We're happy with the smallest base possible because we don't have to, cater to the larger constituency. If that happens here, it's happening in 50 other states around the country.
Right.
So our local party is fractured. Our local party is lazy. Our local party is old, and happy to bring, Joyce and Daren and her friends out to vote for me.
But I've said this off air, and I'll say it again. I think the Democrats have to change their message.
And come with a real message.
You have to have a message, and the message has to really meet the needs of everyone. If you're going to be a Democrat, you can't just talk about the middle class and strengthen the middle class when you've got the poor. You've got unemployed.
A growing number, yeah.
Yeah, you've got unemployed, you've got the underemployed, and those are people too. And you just can't walk around talking about strengthening the middle class when a lot of that base that is now poor is that
That's
number
right.
continues to rise. And like I said, the day of middle class to me, and the analogy I've given it before is the middle class right now, the way that it's looking in America is nothing more than the top of the bottom.
Top of the bottom. That's the best the term I've heard for it.
But
you're absolutely right.
But there is a Democratic alternative, and that's the progressive wing of the party. That's the wing of the party that's growing fastest. That's the wing of the party that's youngest and have a longer future ahead of them. That's the party that are fighting on behalf of literally the poor. They're fighting for the 99%. And when I say the 99%, I'm not talking about 99% of African Americans, Caribbeans, and Latinos and women. I'm talking about white people are in that 99%. They're talking to the economic populism, you see. And that is where the rub lies, is because the corporate wing, as I mentioned about Republicans, they have a corporate wing, well, so does the Democrats. They are beholden to the big donors, where the progressives are working with the $5, $10, and $15 donations. And when you have that situation in conflict, until that conflict is resolved, one way or the other, and we can forge a union that you can work with, then all bets are off for 2018. All bets are off for 2020. Because people are only going to come out and vote if they give them something to vote for.
Well, we have, and if you organize them, we're not organizing anymore.
Yeah. All right, be back with more with them and myself in a moment.
angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant. Behold the angry giant.
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
And we are back here on Perspectives, continuing our conversation and talking about, yes, politics and trying to get a handle on this current situation of 2018 and even 2020 about how the message changes. We started off talking about the president and talking about Russia and the possibility of impeachment, and then moved on a little bit further to talk about what would be needed on both sides to change the message. And, you know, as you were saying.
The simple thing, organize. Organizing, and you pointed up and you gave credit, you know, to the Obama campaign in 2008 and the Obama campaign in 2012. Fundamentally, go to all the people in 50 states, and engage. And we have not done that. Our local state parties are in the South. They've given up. We lost the election by 70,000 votes in 3 states. So we did not do enough. We did not go where we supposed. We did not go to our natural base. Poor folks, poor people, poorer people. No, the quote middle class of yesterday. You know, the industrial Midwest, where there was manufacturing up to gazebo and everything you can think of. We didn't go to Wisconsin. We didn't go to Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Oh, but 17,000 votes in Pennsylvania. 70,000 votes in 3 states would have made a difference. And we did not have that strategy. And plus, we have no organization. Our state party and local party organizations are just blue smoke and mirror.
Well, a lousy candidate didn't help either, and we can't forget that. It wasn't a matter, see, Hillary Clinton came into that election, I don't want to relitigate that again, but she came into the election with the idea of a sense of entitlement. She came into the election with a lot of corporate backing, big donors. Essentially, they were trying to buy the election. You know, I think this woman had almost $1 billion, if not more, in money to spend throughout the United States. But when you're spending that money and putting commercials on with a watered-down message, a message that wasn't speaking to everybody, a message that was dealing with identity politics, whenever her message went out for women, when her message went out for girls, it was like, well, what was men and black boys supposed to think? What was going to incite them about her campaign?
So who was her running mate in this last presidential election?
Tim Kaine of Virginia.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously it takes a few minutes for many people who may not know that Tim Kaine was a guy.
Yeah.
But the obvious person should have been Bernie Sanders.
Precisely.
If you would put Bernie
That's really
Sanders
true.
and Hillary Clinton together,
Cut
you
all
would
of
not
it.
be having this
That's really
conversation.
true.
We would not be having this conversation.
That's really
I mean,
true.
you had the
Well,
opportunity,
the
and once again,
No, I agree.
a sense of entitlement. I've got this. Got her to sitting where she's sitting right now.
I
At
couldn't
home.
agree with you more.
Confused and delusioned.
I won't go that far. I will not go that far. But the mechanics of it,
Right.
you know, her running mate should have been. It was the classic of Johnson and Kennedy in 1960. My parents talking about this. They made me watch that stuff. 1960, Johnson from Texas. You know, the South. Kennedy, Catholic. We can't whatever. Johnson delivered the South, the segregated South. You know, whatever. That marriage, a shotgun marriage. If it was a shotgun marriage then that worked, that same Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton could have worked.
I
That's
doubt that
the
very
deal
seriously.
they should have done.
I doubt that very seriously
I
because
do.
Bernie Sanders' message was geared completely in a different direction. He was thinking progressive. She was thinking traditional.
Doesn't
He
ma-
was
but
thinking
it doesn't
poor.
matter.
She was thinking
Doesn't
rich.
matter. Doesn't matter.
He had
But here-
high positives. Her negatives were very high. She wasn't even
70,000 votes
trusted.
in 3 states. 70,000 votes in 3 states, and states that are our battleground. We have won those states.
But you know what?
That progressive message, that populism on the Democratic side would have carried the day. 70,000 votes. No votes whatsoever.
I believe that Hillary Clinton lost this not because she didn't pick Bernie Sanders. The people who follow Bernie Sanders would not vote for Hillary Clinton under any circumstances.
If he were on
Bernie
a ticket,
Sanders would have destroyed his brand.
If he were on a ticket,
everything that he was working towards to bow down and go with the corporate wing of the party.
And you know what?
So
I believe they could have worked that out.
I had the same
in the
issue.
White House.
I had the same issue.
There you go.
When folks
rather than the outhouse.
Johnson Kennedy is night is today, philosophically and everything else. Shotgun marriage.
You win the House is what I thought. My perception would be you win the House and then you work it out. But obviously that wasn't there. I'm not listening. That's why I'm not in politics.
The real deal is, I think Bernie would have gone on, but they didn't approach him. They did not approach him. I think that they wanted to believe that because Trump was so horrible, no one in their right mind, and that Hillary had done 208. So,
Do you have any idea how many people in this country are not in their right mind? And if you accept that premise, then you will understand how Donald Trump got elected. Because a lot of people who could have come out to vote to change what happened, they said to themselves, you know what, I'd rather just not be a part of it all. And they didn't.
Well, I know a lot of millennials, I'll just say up and down the East Coast, who stayed out because no one thought that Donald Trump was going to win. So I'm not going to support her. She's got it, but I'm not going to give my vote because they did this and that to Bernie. I still will never not believe that, they would have come, because these are folks who are going to be voting in 2018, 2020, all because of what we have now.
I think
listen, we got to leave it there.
To be continued.
Right. We can do this all day, every day.
Right. Oh,
really, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of Respect. I want to thank Joyce and thank Lee for coming on and sharing with us. And we invite you to stay connected every week to Perspectives. I'm Daren Jaime. Until next time we meet, stay safe, share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in somebody else's life. Take care and God bless.
Your perspective which shines a light, because it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
What's on your mind?
Let them know.
Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Let them know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.